Let's be honest. When you think of Michael Jordan, you don't picture lawsuits, courtrooms, or negotiations over TV money. You think about 6 NBA titles, clutch shots, and one of the fiercest competitive spirits in history. But in 2025, the man who dominated basketball is now at the center of something just as high stakes, a legal war that could reshape NASCAR forever. Jordan's team, 23XI Racing, co-owned with Denny Hamlin, is locked in a brutal antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR itself, alongside Front Row Motorsports. And Jordan's words, in and outside of court, have raised a huge question. Is he really fighting for all NASCAR teams, or is he just fighting for 23XI, his own empire, and his legacy? Let's break this down because the truth might be more complicated than it looks. The lawsuit that could change NASCAR forever. At the heart of the battle is the charter system. Since 2016, charters have given Cup Series teams guaranteed entry into races and a share of revenue. But here's the problem. Teams argue that NASCAR holds all the cards, and they're led with crumbs from a billion-dollar pie. 23XI and Front Row say NASCAR is abusing its monopoly power. They claim the France family and NASCAR leadership are squeezing teams, blocking competitors, and controlling every revenue stream, from TV deals to car designs. And it's not just about money, it's about control. The case is heading to trial on December 1st, and the federal judge overseeing it, Kenneth B. Bell, didn't hold back. At a recent hearing in Charlotte, he warned, everybody is going to get hurt if this thing goes a certain way. That's how big this is. The entire structure of NASCAR could collapse or be rewritten depending on the outcome. What the leaked messages revealed. Now, here's where it gets messy, because court filings unearthed private emails, texts, and conversations from both sides, and they weren't pretty. NASCAR executives bragged about having all the leverage over teams. Steve Palps even called one proposed deal a zero-win scenario for owners. Denny Hamlin, he texted that his despise for the France family runs deep. 23XI President Steve Lauletta went so far as to write, "Jim dying is probably the answer." And then came Michael Jordan's own words. He described rival team owners as effers. He admitted owning a NASCAR team was just a hobby, joking that he only did it because you can only play so much golf. And in one of the most eyebrow-raising lines, he said that even if 23XI lost millions, it was the same as what he might lose in a casino. So, yeah, not exactly the inspiring rallying cry of a man uniting the garage. The money question. Let's talk dollars. According to filings, 75% of NASCAR teams lost money in 2024. Teams wanted around $20 million per charted car per year, roughly $720 million total. Instead, NASCAR gave them $430 million under the new deal. Michael Jordan admitted in writing that 23XI actually made a reasonable profit. That's a big contrast to most smaller teams who are barely surviving. So when Jordan says, "I'm fighting for the betterment of the sport," critics ask, is he really speaking for the underdogs, or is he speaking as one of the few owners who can actually afford to lose money? Boycott threats and NASCAR's counterpunch. The filing also showed that some teams floated the idea of a boycott, refusing to race unless NASCAR gave them a fairer deal. NASCAR's response? Brutal. They discussed contingency plans to run races anyway, with Xfinity and truck teams filling the fields. They even considered creating their own Gold Coat factory teams if the current owners walked out. In other words, you think you can hold us hostage? We'll move on without you. That kind of nuclear standout hasn't been seen since the IndyCar split in the 1990s, and that nearly destroyed open-wheel racing in America. No one wants that. Not NASCAR, not the teams, and definitely not the fans. Michael Jordan's public stand. It's here where Jordan takes center stage. Outside the courtroom, he tried to reframe the narrative. He said, "I want to fight for the betterment of the sport. I look forward to going down firing. If I have to fight this to the end, I will do that." That's a soundbite making headlines. That's the Jordan people want to believe in. The icon using his wealth, fame, and platform to change NASCAR for the better. It sounds noble, it sounds powerful, but does it match the evidence? Is Jordan really fighting for everyone? Here's the reality. Jordan admitted 23XI is profitable. Most other teams are not. He called team ownership a hobby and compared it to gambling. That's not how smaller, struggling owners see it. For them, it's survival. His private language toward other owners wasn't exactly supportive. Calling them effers doesn't scream unity. At the same time,
Jordan has something no other owner has: a global brand, influence outside racing, and the money to absorb losses and keep pushing. That makes him the perfect figurehead to take on NASCAR, because unlike a mid-tier owner, Jordan can't be bullied out of the sport. So maybe he isn't fighting for every single team directly, but by fighting for his own team's survival and leverage, he might indirectly fight for everyone. Because if Jordan wins, all teams benefit from a more balanced system. What happens next? Josh Bell said it himself: the risk is enormous. If teams win, NASCAR may be forced to sell tracks, overhaul the charter system, and share more revenue. If NASCAR wins, teams like 2311 and Front Row could be shut out entirely, unless the sanctioning authority decides to welcome them back. And hanging over it all is the nightmare scenario: a split like IndyCar versus CART, which left IndyCar grip wheel for decades. No one wants that. Not NASCAR, not the teams, and definitely not the fans.
Final thoughts.
So, is Michael Jordan really fighting for everyone in NASCAR? The truth is complicated. His private words show a man who sees team ownership as a hobby, even a gamble. His financial position puts him worlds apart from the smaller owners who are scraping by. And his own team is profitable, unlike most of the field. But Jordan also has something no one else has: a global brand, influence outside racing, and the money to absorb losses and keep pushing. That makes him the perfect figurehead to take on NASCAR, because unlike a mid-tier owner, Jordan can't be bullied out of the sport. So maybe he isn't fighting for every single team directly, but by fighting for his own team's survival and leverage, he might indirectly fight for everyone. Because if 2311 wins, all teams benefit from a more balanced system. And if he loses, well, NASCAR may never be the same again.